let's just get the obligatory Princess Bride quip out of the way.
Well, it just so happens that your friend here is only mostly dead. There's a big difference between mostly dead and all dead.
Hey, you geeks! The next big mystery about Wind and Truth is if Kaladin will survive. My money is that he's going to still have a narrative function for the back five, which would require him to be somewhat alive. Before we go any further, I want to give a general spoiler warning for all released content on the Stormlight Archive, including Words of Brandon preview chapters and the Say the Words. Brandon has promised that the back five will focus more on the heralds, and it seems that Kaladin is being set up to be the therapist for the heralds. In particular, his narrative function will come from the drama between him and the heralds. One in particular being Shallan's mom.
Stacey's mom has got it going on.
Nope, not like that. Nope, this is not a Robert Jordan series, thank honor. Rather, this front five began with Kaladin and Shallan, and with Brandon Sanderson's love of coming full circle in his finales, I think that's where he's going to end it, in a final confrontation that fulfills Kaladin's narrative goals, but sets him up to be the leader therapist of the heralds, for which he must be somewhat alive.
No need to call a doctor, cause I'm not yet dead.
Therapist to the damned. In Rhythm of War, Sanderson firmly changes the trajectory of Kaladin's character arc, transitioning from soldier back to surgeon, and a narrative promise that this is not the end of Kaladin's journey. He has left the battle, which I hadn't thought him capable of doing, Odium said. Strangely, this will make him far more dangerous in the future, unless we act. Kaladin may have left the battle to become a surgeon again, but in practice he's really becoming Roshar's first mental health care professional. We see him start with his fellow soldiers also suffering from PTSD. But by the end, Dalinar, of course, promotes him to mental health care of the magically insane heralds. Kaladin, I do not need you as a soldier right now. I need you as a surgeon. You're of the few who personally understand what it means to have your own mind betray you. Would you be willing to go on a mission to recover this individual and find a way to help him, so he can help me? Of course, sir, Kaladin said. Who is it? The Herald Ishi. I don't quite share Dalinar's conviction that Kaladin is going to be able to heal Ishar in 10 days. I think that Ishar's madness goes far deeper than Dalinar or Kaladin or I right now can even fathom. But I do think that the 15-year gap between books 5 and 6 that Brandon has said will occur would give Kaladin ample time to work with some heralds, even if that work be done on Braze, for which I think Sanderson has been setting Kaladin up by throwing him into Bridge 4 back in Book 1. As Kaladin observes in Chapter 9, Damnation, he'd have someone to talk to in Damnation. They could reminisce about how terrible Bridge 4 had been, and agree that eternal fires were much more pleasant.
War isn't hell. War is war and hell is hell. And of the two, war is a lot worse.
How do you figure that, Hawkeye?
Easy, Father. Tell me, who goes to hell?
Sinners, I believe.
Exactly. There are no innocent bystanders in hell.
Of course, that was Chapter 9, a chapter of odium. But with Chapter 10 comes honor, stories of surgeons where Kaladin shows some awesome dramatic irony. The heralds were wise beyond our understanding. Cal grimaced. But they're demons, Father. I heard it off that ardent who came teaching last spring. That's the radiance he spoke of, Liren said sharply. We know, of course, that 9 of the heralds refused to return to Braze after the last desolation, violating their oath and thereby falling from grace, corrupting the very ideals that they sought to inspire in men. We've been inside the head of Ash, the once herald of art, and her compulsive need to vandalize images. And honor only knows what damage a herald once devoted to wisdom could do.
When did Saruman the Wise abandon reason for madness?
Or, for that matter, a herald once devoted to division and self-control. The herald Shanarach, who I think is going to have a particular beef with Kaladin since it seems he killed her son. Dust Mother.
We're going way back to before the beginning.
I've always been somewhat baffled on Sanderson's insistence on giving a status update of Shallan's brothers without ever narratively really doing anything with them. Adding this curiosity to the fact that Shallan can take mental pictures in her mind and foresee the future, along with the other bits of trivia that Sando has confirmed, such as Shanarach the Herald had red hair, and Tom didn't break.
You will find out, but Tom did not break.
Yeah, right. Sign up to get him. Sign up.
That's what I want. You'll find out how it happened, but Tom did not break.
All adds up to mean that there is something weird going on with Shallan's family. Basic math tells us that Shallan's mother died the same year that Gavilar did, and the recently released prologue to Book 5 informs us that a herald died on the night of Gavilar's murder. Putting those together, we can see that if Shallan killed her mother in self-defense that night, and her mother was the herald Shanna, then Shanna returned to Braze, where she only lasted 6 years before she broke, sending her and Taln back to the world of Roshar, as we saw Taln return in the end of Book 1.
Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back?
I've put a link in the description that gives a lot more details to that theory, but for this video's brevity, we're only going to focus on the themes that that theory would imply for Kaladin and Shallan's final endgames of Book 5. We know that Shanna is the herald of the Dustbringers, and that the Dustbringers somehow balance destruction with self-control. They often attract tinkerers, who like to dig down into the shape and soul of a thing, break it, and see what makes it work. This, to my delight, gives great context to the second interlude of the entire Stormlight archive, seemingly useless point of view from Non-Balat, Shallan's brother. Odd, looking at a creature like this, when it had no legs. The crab was still alive, yet how could you know it? Without legs to wiggle, the creature seemed as dead as stone. The arms, he thought. We wave them about to make us seem alive. That's what they're good for. It's not just that he's picking apart a living creature to relax.
Slimy, it's satisfying.
But subconsciously, as he's doing it, he's wondering what makes this thing seem alive. Later in Shallan's flashbacks and Words of Radiance, we learn that Non-Balat likes to set things on fire. So Balat is definitely showing signs of early Dustbringer with very little self-control. The sort of person you would imagine who had been fostered by maybe the mother of all Dustbringers, who, because of her broken oath, also had no self-control and a proclivity for destruction. It's also notable that in the third interlude of The Way of Kings, one of Zeth's owners uses the term Dust Mother as a curse, possibly referring to Shanarach, in a way that is so blatant and yet so subtle of Sanderson to tell us what's going on.
Vader in German means father. His name is literally Darth Father.
If Shauna's heraldic power was to tear things apart with extreme precision and control, then her curse would be to keep things together with absolutely no self-control whatsoever, as we see exemplified in the character of Lynn Devar. Her father said, "I just have to let the anger out. I can't blame myself for that anger. Others create it when they disobey me." They both knew she'd intentionally disobeyed. "I would not want to have to punish anyone else because of you, Shallan," father said. "No more indulgences. If we are to be important in Yat Kaved, we cannot be seen as weak. Do you understand?" Lynn Devar insisted on keeping his family together and strong by disowning anyone who dared disobey him. Notably, this included Helleran, a shard bearer, who would be considered strong by most people's estimation. It is unclear how much of Lynn's behavior was influenced by a potential unmade or by the Ghostbloods themselves. However, I think it's reasonable to infer that Shauna would have married Lynn because they shared the same type of crazy.
I'll show you wild!
No self-control.
After all, it was Shallan's mother who first tried to remove the unwanted member of the family in Shallan when she discovered her daughter was a Radiant. This, of course, did not go well. Now, you're probably wondering, what's this got to do with Kaladin?
Let's start at the very beginning.
The Way of Kings is famous for having 3 chapters that could function as prologues, the third and final one being from Sen's perspective as an introduction to Kaladin, right before Sen is summarily killed off by Helleran the Shardbearer, and we later learn Kaladin goes on to kill Helleran and win his shards, though Kaladin does not take them. The consequences of Kaladin winning and refusing shards have been thoroughly routed out in the narrative thus far, but it is a very weird detail that Helleran was the shard bearer, and yet this has been largely ignored, especially by Shallan. "From Kaladin," Adolin said. "The bridge boy insisted that he'd saved Amaran's life by killing a shard bearer. Amaran then killed Kaladin's squad and took the shards for himself. That's basically the entire reason the two hate each other." Shallan's throat grew tight. "Oh, tuck it away. Don't think about it."
That's it? That wasn't so bad. You can't knock old Timon down that easy. Yeah, bring it on!
With the exception of giving Shallan another reason to hate Amaram, this detail has been largely unused in the plot. It seems that Kaladin could have killed off just about any shard bearer and his story would remain unchanged. It seems that Shauna, who had spent so many years of her life trying to keep that family together and under her control, would not take kindly to Kaladin for killing off her beloved son. This dynamic is going to give a lot of drama to Kaladin's proposed role as therapist to the damned, which is going to make him need to be very much alive for the back 5. Sins of the Mother. If Kaladin isn't destined to be at the duel, perhaps he'll be out in the fields with Shallan seeking to free Ba Edo Mishram, or perhaps defending the war camps from invasion. Maybe both, as maybe Ba Edo Mishram could only be freed in the same place where she was captured, which we're all pretty sure was at Stormseat, now called Rock, now just a short hour drive from the war camps on the Shattered Plains. there would be a wonderful place, or perhaps yield Honor Chasm itself, for Kaladin and Moash to have their final confrontation. While I would love to see Kaladin defeat Moash in a duel to the death, fact of the matter is that Moash has been blinded by divine light. So unless he's going to acquire some daredevil or force-sensitive ninja powers in the next 10 days, it doesn't seem likely that Moash is going to be in much of fighting shape. Besides, there's the whole Western Christian tradition of blindness being the first step on the road to redemption. There's also a more universal theme of those who are blind to physical realities can see spiritual truths.
Do you see the light? The band! Do you see the light? What light?
So I don't think it's a coincidence that Moash is currently physically blind while holding Yezrian's honor blade without limitations. Let's put a Chekhov's blade on that concept for a moment and return to the relation between Shanarach and Shallan, who began this story in a duel to the death, and how I think those two will end it. As the theory goes, Shanarach may have had something to do with the capturing and jailing of Ba Edo Mishram. After all, why else would Wit or the Ghostbloods, whose stated goal is to find Ba Edo Mishram, want to visit this backwater estate in Yakaved? So, if Shanna returns to find that her ill-favored daughter is seeking to set free the very thing she sacrificed centuries of her life to imprison, she is not gonna be too happy about that.
But the mother and child reunion is only a motion away.
Heralds, as we've seen in Rhythm of War with Ishar, can totally clean up with their honor blades. But even without one, we've seen the assassin that Yasna met in her prologue carry a shard blade, insinuating that an unarmed herald could take on a shard bearer. So, Shanarach versus even a fourth ideal Knight Radiant seems like an interesting match. Kaladin could fight her in protection of Shallan, while Shanna would be eager to get at the man who killed her son. Kaladin might even lose this fight, which would certainly not sit well with F-Face, Moash. He's got the whole Kaladin can't be killed thing, and what would he do in order to see it true? Would he sacrifice himself, overdrawing on Stormlight using Yezrian's honor blade in a last-ditch moment of pre-death honor? The honor blades are what we are based on, Kaladin. Honor gave these to men, and those men gained powers from them. The sword gave the assassin the power to use lashings, but it will also feed upon his Stormlight. A person who uses this will need far more light than you will. Dangerous levels of it. Though that, according to my calculations for optimal irony, would mean that Moash would take Yezrian's place amongst the heralds. Perhaps he and Kaladin could share the title of Cognitive Shadow of Honor, or perhaps Cal will remain human. Either way, they may just depart united after the battle to go heal the heralds and unite them once again.
We're putting the band back together.
Or they would be sent to Braze to keep Dalinar from conquering the rest of the Cosmere in Odium's name. This would give Moash a satisfying amount of temporal afterlife suffering to help him repent of the misdeeds he done in his life. And he, unlike Kaladin, I think, would totally break after 15 years, spurring the next 5 books into action. See, this is where my theories kind of fall short. Sanderson has set up so many wonderful options that I can't definitively say how this book is going to end. And that's what I love about it. So please let me know your thoughts for what fate awaits our favorite bridge boy in book 5 down below. And while you're there, like, subscribe, ring the bell. Thanks for watching. Bye!